Welcome back, everyone, to the Escapades. It's episode 5 at Naruhodo's. I did it again. Naruhodo's Legal Consultancy. Why do I do that? An escapade in Naruhodo's Legal Consultancy, where Suzuto appears to be rather irritated, because it seems Ryunosuke has been buying a little too much bric-a-brac, and now the whole place is brimming with things they don't need. And his latest purchase has really rocked the boat with Iris and Suzuto. Oh dear, so when's this? Still the first game? Alright. Do any take place during the second game? 5th of March, 2:40 PM. Naruhodo's Legal Consultancy. Hello? I'm back. Oh, hello, Mr. Naruhodo. Did you have a good outing? Hi, Reno. What's the matter? Your eyes are as big as dinner plates. Iris, I wasn't expected to see you here. I've just made some tea, Mr. Naruhodo. Would you like a cup? Oh, yes, delightful. A cup or two, yes. Definite tea. Definite tea. Definite tea. Yeah, that doesn't really work. Yeah, I'm with Iris on this one. Alright, Runo, what's going on? You're acting extremely strangely. What? Me? No, not at all. I'm as normal can be. Normality itself. That one works better, yeah. Normality itself, see? Not again, Mr. Naruhodo. Sorry, not what again? What do you mean, Susie? Whenever he goes out on his own lately, he always seems to come back with a peculiar new purchase. Peculiar? Peculiar? What's peculiar about the things I bought? You seem to think that anything British is a curio you simply must have. Like what? You keep buying items of bric-a-brac even though you don't know what they are. Well, there are a rather lot of bric-a-brac shops and pawnbrokers and the like around here. That's when I've been to Lord Strongheart's to give my weekly report. I'm always so nervous beforehand. On the way home, I just find myself in those shops and... Yeah, it's alright, I can't deny it, I've bought something. You're right, you can't deny it, because your eyes are wider than ever. You really ought to put up a warning sign about them. They're bigger than some potholes around here. It's hard to resist things in the bric-a-brac shop. It's also cheap. Mr. Shlomes have given me lots of useful advice about how to pick out the real bargains. You must remember, Runo, that Hurley likes to have fun with you. Take his advice with a big pinch of salt. Well, that's true. The thing he told me was a pot stand wasn't a pot stand at all. But I never guessed it was a collapsible top hat. No, and I'd never have guessed that you could fill up this once empty room so quickly. Honestly, it's overflowing with things we don't need now. Like what? I mean, look at those scales. Not once have you weighed something on them. Yeah, but they look good, like the scales of justice, you know. I know, but ever since I first stood at the defense's bench in court, don't know why, but just really wanted my own little set of scales. Let's see it then, Mr. Naruhodo. What have you come home with today? Oh, well, it's, one of these. What is it? It looks all dry and shriveled up in a ball. Really, Mr. Naruhodo? What is it? It's a sea anemone. An anemone? Yes, I think. I mean, I know it doesn't look like it at the moment. It's all shriveled up, like you said. Aren't sea anemones living creatures? The ones that dance about on the seabed? Yes, exactly. The ones that dance about on the seabed. Oh, they sell sea anemones in bric-a-brac shops here in Britain. I don't know whether they normally do or not. But I do know that I bought one today. But why, Runo? Well, yes, for the aquarium, of course. Aquarium, I don't know that word. Well, according to the shopkeeper, keeping sea creatures in tanks was hugely popular here in London before. Oh yes, some people have some beautiful fish in seawater tanks, it's true. Having the aquarium become popular because the old glass tax was abolished. There it is again, rearing its ugly head, the subject of taxation. It was a real craze for a while. Everyone in London had one. For a while? Yes, it didn't last long. People's enthusiasm soon waned. It's just far too much work to be changing the seawater regularly in a city like London. Never a truer word said, I'm sure. You'd think people might have realised that from the start, really. Wouldn't you? No. No. Anyway, that was long before I was born. So now everyone jokes that there's an unloved aquarium covered in dust in every attic in the capital. And it's true, there's one in this attic too. When I told the man in the bric-a-brac shop about it, he had these words of wisdom. That's why this is the age of the sea, and that made a lot of sense to me. Especially the bit. It made sense to you, did it? But Runo, this is an anemone is completely dried up. You just need to soak it in water overnight and it'll be as good as new. That's what the man said. Oh dear. I'm not sure that it works the same way as dried wakame seaweed, Mr. Naruhodo. What's I say with my money? I'm going to buy some prawns to keep this little fellow company. Oh, how exciting. The office will be teeming with life. Would it really? Britain is a funny country, though. I mean, to see an craze? Well, they say people in glass houses about comments like that here, Mr. Naruhodo. Don't forget that there was a very curious rabbit craze in our own country not so very long ago. A mortifying chapter that people will try to erase from the history books 100 years from now, I'm sure. You know, there was another craze as well before the aquarium one. Have you heard of Wardian cases? Wardy what? No, I've definitely never heard of them. Everything's in that book. They were little glazed cases for growing plants indoors, I believe. Oh, I see, for plant lovers to raise their favourite tropical plants. That's right, like different types of ferns. Ferns? Do you mean those rather dull plants with lots of fronds for leaves? They're not dull at all, ferns are lovely plants. I kind of agree, it's a good way of getting a lot of greenery very quickly. Is quickly the right word? We'll go with that. I think people wanted to recreate the exotic foliage of the tropics in their own homes. So they grew ferns? I mean, ferns, sea anemones. Londoners certainly have a knack for the obscure. Well, thinking about it, my grandfather loved the moss on his bonsai. He looked after it better than the trees. Seems like the more obscure something is, the more it interests people. Maybe. Anyway, the Wardian case craze didn't last very long. Now most of those little glass cases are just gathering up dust, I think. But haven't I seen one in your room, Iris? Oh, very observant of you, Susie. Yeah, it's probably a case of the fact that she grows herbs and stuff, so it makes sense. Yes, that's right. Mine's certainly not gathering dust. I grow tropical herbs in it. Yeah, there you go. Well, Mr. Naruhodo, I really must ask you to stop all this frivolous buying of strange things. Yes, alright, sorry. It's just that, well, think about Mr. Shlom's room. He has all sorts of peculiar trinkets lying around. Oh, well, yes, that's true. And they seem to be growing in number. Recently, I've noted a blowpipe, a few barrel crystals set in a twisted piece of gold, a gold-rimmed pin's pinceness. I spotted a small gramophone record in there the other day, so I slipped it onto the gramophone. It was just a whispering voice saying, Norbury, and nothing more. Norbury. What could it possibly be about? Those are all mementos of cases that Hurley solved over the years. Norbury. Exactly. That's what I want to create in here. Just that sort of atmosphere. Yeah. I've mentioned before elsewhere, I can't remember where, that I do that kind of thing. Just, I have mementos of things all around. It's when I was talking about books somewhere. I think it was in this, wasn't it? Because we were talking about books when we were at Lord Strongheart's. It's that. That conversation. Again. Just put it here. You know. A room full of meaningful trinkets, each with their own unique history, I mean. Yes, that's it. I knew you'd understand, Miss Susato. Yeah, but you're just buying random stuff. But, Mr. Naruhodo, none of the things you bought for the room have any connection with any of our cases. The scales are the thing that makes sense. To me, out of everything here, the scales like, yeah. Oh, don't they? Well, for example, take that splendid but rather weather-beaten top hat. That wasn't used as evidence in any of the cases we've worked on, was it? Oh, so you have two top hats? If you count the collapsible one as well? No, the collapsible one is a pot stand, as far as I'm concerned, anyway. But the other day, when we were in court, they were everywhere, weren't they? Top hats, I mean. Well, here in Britain, of course. They're the mark of a true gentleman, so that's hardly surprising. When did we all stop wearing hats like this? Like, when was that and why? Because it seemed to happen globally as a thing. And we just used to wear hats, but now we don't really wear hats unless it's cold. Or we want to block the sun. It's just strange. Strange. If a man isn't wearing a top hat when he ventures out of doors, he'll be looked down upon. I've always fancied getting a hat. Just to look fancy, you know. Gosh, it has very strict rules, doesn't it? The English Gentleman's Code. I've been wondering how I'd look in a top hat recently. After all, my university uniform is black as well, so I think it would be very in keeping. Oh, what a good idea. Go on then, Runo. Try it on. Do we get to see? Probably not. Hey! The lesson here, I suppose, is that the juxtaposition of student and gentleman is just so strange and wrong. Well, I'd rather it didn't suit me anyway. I mean, these hats are ridiculous. I'd be willing to bet every foreigner who sees one of these for the first time thinks exactly the same thing. Why is that man wearing a chimney on his head? People in glass houses remember Uno. What do you mean? Well, what about Japanese Chomage top nuts? Those haircuts are the height of ridiculousness. True. At least you can take a hat off. Once you have a Chonmage, it's Chon your head for good. So it's definitely Chon. I'd be willing to bet every foreigner who sees a Chonmage for the first time thinks exactly the same thing. Why is that man wearing a cannon on his head? I suppose that's what means to have different cultures, isn't it? Yes. Yes. Everyone has their own strange, different habits, and we can learn from each other. It's great. It's great. That's one thing that's good about studying other cultures and stuff. This is one of the reasons I like this. Because it really analyzes British culture at that time, which is different to what my culture is, which is Britain hundreds of years later. So I get to have that little experience as well. Because it's that is a different culture. Britain back then, different culture to it is now. So it's yeah, I'm looking at a different culture. But at the same time, they're analyzing it from a Japanese point of view, but the Japanese culture that's in the past as well. So that's a different culture from what Japan is now. It's that kind of thing. It's interesting. Anyway, I've waffled. On the subject of hats, the one Mr. Shlomes always wears is really very strange, don't you think? I beg your pardon, Mr. Naruhodo? What a thing to say. The hat is the very essence of Mr. Shlom's. Yes, without the deerstalker, the great detective would be unrecognizable. It's called a deerstalker? That's a surprisingly swanky name, Swanky. It's the hat of a hunter, just like the flat cap. I made up my mind long ago to visit Regent Street and buy one for myself. I'm not sure it's going to fit over your hair. Well, I think it's perfect for a great detective who stalks his criminal quarry. What do you think is strange about it anyway? Well, you've seen it. It has two brims, one at the front and one at the back. Why do you need two brims on a hat? Surely one at the front is enough, no? One moment, please. Trust me, it's just Mr. Shlom's madcap personality coming through. I bet it's so that he doesn't have to think about which way around to put it on or something like that. Mr. Shlom's does not have a madcap personality. He has a clear head. Deerstalkers were made for hunters who had to hide in the thickets when they were stalking their prey. The brim at the back was designed to stop the stalks of the plants scratching the backs of their necks. Oh, so that's the reason. Thank you, Iris, for educating us. Mr. Shlom's doesn't spend a lot of time in the thickets, though. Does he? Well, no. That's true. I'm telling you, it's just his impetuous personality. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. Firmly. Ah, here you all are. Oh, good afternoon, Mr. Shlom's. I've not long since made some tea, Mr. Shlom's. Would you like a cup? I see I've come at a good time, Miss Susato. Thank you. Now, I have something I should like you all to see. I've designed myself a brand new Great Detective's hat. What the? There's a brim at the front and at the back and at both sides. 4 brims in total. Your observation is quite correct, my dear madam. I'm a busy man, you see. But with this hat, whichever way I put it on, I shall always have it pointing the correct way. Oh. With my previous hat, I could, in an impetuous moment, wear it erroneously with the brims on either side. That's impressively clumsy, I would say. And I must regretfully say, I think your madcap theory was correct after all. But really, Mr. Shlom's, with brims on all 4 sides like that, wouldn't it just be better to wear a top hat instead? Oh yes, and however you put it on, you'd have a brim all around. What? So true, so true. How could I have been so blinkered to this fact until now? Well, fortunately, I happen to have 2 top hats here. If you just lift the pot off of it, you're welcome to try that one there. Indeed I shall, my good fellow. Much obliged. Oh dear. Ha 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 and such. Oh dear, Hurley, it looks terrible. More terrible than I could possibly have imagined. Oh, that's not good. Maybe it's because of your long face. Paired with a tall hat, it just doesn't work. Well, I think it's very nice, Mr. Shlom's. Even if it will have the whole world in fits of laughter. Ah! I should never have meddled with it. Give me a deerstalker forevermore. Give me my regulation university hat forevermore. There's still hope that you'll graduate one day, Mr. Naruhodo. Don't give up. Oh dear. Dum. Dum. So I'm assuming that's us done. So, we'll be seeing the next part with episode 6 in Mr. Natsume's room. Oh dear, oh dear. You know, I'm curious. It's all in the first game. Huh. Weird. Alright, well, we'll see you in the next part anyway with episode 6 in Mr. Natsume's room. Ta-da. For now.